Hello there. Sorry. Welcome to another exciting new episode of Talking About Stoicism. I do pardon. Beg your pardon. Dude, your etc. I thought we would talk about today was something I read recently, and then it occupied my mind for a couple of days, and I thought this is a very interesting quote. So I read something from Aeschylus, who was a Greek tragedist. He was a playwright, and he wrote a number of tragedies. And one of them he wrote, is called Agamemnon, and it has a quote in it from the chorus, which includes the phrase "He who learns will suffer." And I thought that was fascinating. It stood out to me. It's part of a longer quote, and it gets quite theological, which is not really my main interest, slash interest. But he who learns will suffer, I thought, even if pulled slightly out of context, is a very interesting phrase. And I was attracted to that because, of course, I make my living as an educator. So as I was thinking about that phrase, I had to think of it from a Stoic viewpoint. And Aeschylus is not a Stoic. This was not a Stoic. He didn't claim to be a Stoic. He wasn't. I didn't look up the full date. He wouldn't be surprised if he predates the Stoics. In any case, this man's not a Stoic. So he's not. Just bear this in mind. Okay. Also, don't mind my hair because I didn't bother to do it. So anyway, because I'm a Stoic, so I don't care about external appearances. Now, having said that, what is interesting about this phrase? Well, I look at it from two perspectives. First of all, there is the perspective of the educator. I'll take that perspective first, and I can tell you that it is very right that he who learns will suffer. I see this on a daily basis in students as they struggle through try to master material, which is difficult, it's challenging, and it takes a lot of effort. And without that effort, no progress is made. And that itself is an incredibly Stoic thought, but it's a reality. It's a reality. You have to make effort in order to be able to accomplish anything. You have to make effort to learn. And if you wish to learn, then you will suffer. If nothing else, then simply because you have to make all that effort. Now, that's just what I observe as an educator, but as a learner, I think that phrase is also very true. I have been in school for an awfully long time, because that's what tends to happen when you pursue an advanced degree, as I did. Then you are in school for a very long time, years and years and years and years. And the reason I point that out is that there are certain things that come out of being in school for so long, on all kinds of different levels. And I think one of the most important levels is that you learn that you know quite a lot, but only about a little. The more specialized your degree gets, the more you study very, very specific things, and less so the entire context of things around it. And that makes you suffer, because there are undoubtedly exceptions to the rule, but a lot of people that I met, and I interact with a lot of people who have PhDs, a lot of the people I interact with who have PhDs regularly say things like, I realize how little I actually know. I realize how little I know about anything. Yes, there is a specific topic, maybe the topic I did my PhD on, or something that I know a lot about, but even then, there is an awful lot more that I don't know much about. And this day and age, that's interesting, because everybody's an expert. Because you watch 2 YouTube videos on something, and then you're an expert, and you know better than any expert in the field. We see this a lot on social media. We have seen this a lot throughout the pandemic. We continue to see this a lot. I feel we see this more and more. But what's interesting is that those people invariably are not experts. They're not experts. They believe they are experts, but the reality is they are not. There are people who know an awful lot more than them. In fact, there are people who have forgotten more about that topic than they will ever know. And that's very interesting, because that to me too is another aspect of he who learns. And sorry about the gendered language, but that's how that quote panned out. They who learn, let's put it that way, will suffer. Whoever learns will suffer. And if you happen to have been fortunate enough to learn an awful lot, which is what you would hope happens in pursuing an advanced degree in whatever, you suffer because you realize how little you know. And it's a very interesting experience, because I certainly went into that whole process of learning and doing all the work for that degree, thinking that I would end up knowing an enormous amount. And I suppose to an extent you do know a lot about something, but again, it's about a very limited topic. And you can learn more, and you can set yourself to learn more about a specific topic. But you suffer because you realize how little you know. And then the flip side to that coin is that field, that tiny little field about which you know an awful lot. I studied throughout my PhD one brain area, and I can tell you more about that brain area than most people could, even than most cognitive neuroscientists would, simply because I studied that for 5 years and they studied something else in which they're the experts. But that knowledge comes with a price to pay as well. You also pay for having that knowledge, because a lot of effort and, frankly, pain and suffering went into obtaining that knowledge. Gaining knowledge, in my mind, is never a pain-free process. You suffer in the process. And I don't know if that's too dramatic a way to put it, but you suffer, you end up suffering, you end up giving a lot of yourself to that process to be able to master these things that you're studying, to learn them really well, to have that expertise, whatever that means, however you want to interpret that term. But it comes with pain and suffering too. So now there are multiple facets. There is the hyper-specialization of knowledge, and that makes you suffer. I get frustrated so often because I don't know certain things. I'm trying to study something or I'm trying to teach something, and I realize how little I know of that topic, even though I keep studying it. It's frustrating. That is pain and suffering. And that comes from knowing something. But it takes a lot of scholarship to know how little you know, and all the things you don't know. And that makes you suffer. Then there is the process of actually trying to master material. And that makes you suffer. The process itself, all the effort, all the time, all the energy you expend in trying to master that thing. Whatever it is, right? Like this could, in my case, sort of cognitive neuroscience, cognitive psych, but this could also be fitting pipes. It's another bit of knowledge, a skill that you try to master that takes an enormous amount of time and energy. So that is the suffering as well. And to me, the thing that hurts most is realizing how bad you are at something. Because the more you learn, the more you come to realize that there is an awful lot more to know. It's a very difficult thing. And I don't know if you ever thought about that. There are moments, a lot of moments I do, but that quote just expressed it really well. He who learns will suffer. Now, to bring this back to Stoicism, that is suffering too. That is another thing, a topic, a philosophy, a way of life that you can choose to master. But with that mastering comes a lot of suffering. With all the learning you do comes a lot of suffering. For me, there is suffering sometimes in looking back and thinking about how I handled specific situations and how much better I could have handled them. And a Stoic would then say, yeah, but it's kind of pointless. You shouldn't live in the past. You can't change the past. I know that. But even so, sometimes it just bubbles up into your mind again, doesn't it? As I think it does for everyone. And there is the suffering that comes with the progress that you make. You know you're making progress, but you know you're also not quite there. And we've had those kinds of discussions in the past. You can never be perfect, and you know that. But then still, when you do something and you know that what you did was not exactly the right way to handle that situation from again, a Stoic viewpoint, then that comes with the suffering. The suffering of knowing that you could have done better. Or you should have done better, but you didn't. You did what you did. And I suppose then a Stoic would say, yes, but I mean, you look at that situation, you realized you could have handled it better, and then next time you can make effort to do that thing better. Well, that's true as well. But there is still the initial suffering. So, I didn't mean this to be some sort of depressing talk, because I don't think it is depressing. It's just something that you realize. At least sometimes. Some people never realize that. Because like I said, some people believe they're absolute experts at certain topics that they're clearly not experts on. But I think that is a lack of education. And that's a difficult thing to do. That may sound like an elitist thing to say, but it takes a lot of studying and effort to realize how little you know. And if you never make that effort, you will never know, and you may actually believe that you know everything. This comes back to Dunning-Kruger effect and people overestimating their abilities habitually. What do you think? What does it mean to you when someone says, "He who learns will suffer"? Or she, or they, or you know what I mean. What does it mean to you? I'd love to hear that. I took a week break. It's the end of the term. It's exhausting. I have a lot of grading to do and things to think about, so sorry about that. I will be back. I was back now. I'll be back another day. More talk about Stoicism. Good night, Aeschylus, signing off. Suffering.